Bienvenue à tous. Welcome to Reporters, France 24's eyes on the big stories around the world. In this edition, we take you to the heart of the humanitarian crisis in Central African Republic. While there's been a change of interim leader and a whole set of promises to stop the violence there are still many thousands of people who are caught in the middle of the chaos, often literally running for their lives in the face of violence between militia divided on sectarian lines, Muslim and Christian. The country has descended into horrific violence since the Muslim Seleka rebels seized power last March. Christian militia called Anti-Balaka have formed to oppose them, and there are almost daily atrocities committed in the name of one or the other, less about religion, more about power. Meanwhile, food is running low. Our reporter has traced the blocked supply wagons and followed them through to their destination, to people in dire need of just the basics to stay alive. A political solution to the conflict in Central African Republic seems far off. A humanitarian disaster seems all too imminent. Our reporter is Tatiana Mosso. Her report begins on the road to the border with Cameroon, where the trucks had been delayed.
Old guns seized from these three anti-Balakas on a motorbike on the road to Cameroon. The Rwandan contingent of MISCA, the African-led international support mission to the country, disarm wherever they can.
It's a 12-gauge. A lot of people have them.
Anti-Balaka fighters like these are mostly Christian peasants. They've turned their hunting guns on the mainly Muslim former Seleka rebels, sometimes to defend their villages.
It's evidence.
These MISCA soldiers are heading deep into hostile territory. 600 kilometers west, including 100 of no man's land. Their destination, the Cameroonian border. Nobody's taken this route for more than a month. We roll past an endless succession of burnt-out villages and looted houses. The area's in the hands of the anti-Balakas. In one of the vehicles, Christophe and Thomas, former French soldiers who've now turned to humanitarian work. They negotiate and secure operations for the World Food Programme. This time their mission's to retrieve aid trucks stranded at the border.
The slightest provocation and he'll go right for our tyres.
At each anti-Balaka roadblock, there are more and more fighters. The MISCA troops order them to hand over their weapons. They comply. Or mostly. When an anti-Balaka fighter opens fire, he's shot down by Rwandan soldiers. No time to lose, the convoy heads off again into the bush. It's the only incident during the journey. After 2 days on the road, the convoy reaches the border town of Biloko. The aid workers go off in search of their trucks.
18306 is this one. 18306 BG. But that one, what state's it in? Has someone stolen the fuel? Is it all right? It's all right. So they're ready to head back to customs.
The lorries, around 20 of them, have been parked here for several weeks, stranded by the fighting and massacres. Under their tarpaulins, tons of urgently needed humanitarian aid. But the anti-Balakas must still be persuaded to let the convoy pass.
We're going to get the drivers to come back, and we'll also be joining other trucks at the other side. We're going to form a convoy and go back to Bangui.
No problem.
At each stop, Christophe updates the main office in Bangui on the convoy's progress.
We're in Boloko. Now we're heading to the border. We've spoken with the people at the barriers so that they'll let us pass. It seems to be going well. They understand what's happening.
At the Cameroon side, the drivers are nervous. They fear for their lives and refuse to set off.
We have a rapid response force.
A Congolese officer from MISCA tries to reassure them with the help of a little invention.
We're also able to have a helicopter sent in case of any incidents on the road.
90% of drivers are Muslims. All Muslims are in danger over there. They're being cut to pieces right in front of MISCA and Sangaris. And they're not doing anything to stop it.
No driver will be left behind. We've come here. This operation's no joke.
After lengthy discussions, morning comes and the convoy's almost ready to leave, only to be held back by latecomers.
We're leaving at 12, so they have 12 minutes to get here. It's their last chance.
There are some last-minute adjustments. The convoy will include some 50 French army supply vehicles and only a third of the humanitarian trucks.
It's disappointing for us. A lot of trucks have still been able to pass, but it's still disappointing. We're now looking into an airlift, something we wanted to avoid, but at this rate, we won't be able to avoid it.
They finally hit the road, 3 hours late. Around 30 civilians climb aboard, taking advantage of the convoy to return to Bangui. Shopkeeper Blanche and her relatives have been stuck in Cameroon since the 5th of January.
That's my sister, my other sister, and that's my brother. That's my mother and my little sister, and my other brother. There's a crisis in Bangui. There's no salt, no rice, not even any soap. We wanted to come back with supplies to help families, but the road's been closed for 2 months.
They're going home in hopeful spirits, dreaming of political stability now that a woman's leading the country.
We're happy. We're happy we're going back to Bangui today. We're glad it's Catherine Samba Panza. We're very happy.
But these women won't reach Bangui. Their truck will plunge into a ravine. There will be one survivor and no news of the rest. To reassure passengers, soldiers patrol alongside the convoy. But Christophe is concerned.
There are some individuals that arrived on foot. They seem to be armed. So the escort asked them to leave and asked all the drivers to go back to their vehicles. We don't know where we are, how many people may be around.
150 kilometers into the journey, there have already been 2 serious accidents. Luckily, the military ambulance is on hand. A man fallen victim to an exaction is given medical attention.
We found him on the road to Baoro. His leg was cut in the religious clashes between the Muslims and the Christians.
Yet another checkpoint, yet more negotiations. Still 200 kilometers to go to Bangui. Anti-Bellicas crowd round. The atmosphere is electric.
Basically, you have an anti-Balaka village, a Muslim village, another anti-Balaka village. There are hundreds of people ready to fight. It's Sunday, and everyone's drunk or stoned. It's extremely difficult.
We respect the hierarchy, all right? It's not worth your bother talking to everyone. It's me you need to listen to.
Christophe tries to smooth things over, but his soldier weighs in clumsily.
Please, before you arrived, if we hadn't taken control of the road, who knows who could have come this way?
Clashes are narrowly avoided. As the second day on the road draws to an end, the convoy is making slow progress. Everyone is exhausted. The drivers haven't taken this road for months. Anti-Balakas are hunting down anyone who's Muslim.
Look what they've done to the mosques.
You see this road? All the mosques here have been destroyed. We Muslims have always lived here. Where do they expect us to go?
We've always lived side by side. Here there are Muslims and Christians within the same families, women and children. But now, just look at it. The country is in a pathetic state.
This road is crucial to the functioning of the country. The very survival of the capital depends on it.
We're the ones crossing the country. Everything inside these containers is what is needed to reconstruct it. If there's not sufficient security in place for us to do so, how is the country going to work?
After a 3-day journey, the convoy arrives in Bangui. Despite several breakdowns and accidents, only one of the 70 lorries that left the border is missing. Both drivers and civilians are relieved, but now must face a capital scarred by violence.
Our reporter Tatiana Mosso is here in the studio. Tatiana, thank you very much for your fascinating report. Central African Republic is well documented as being one of the most poorest countries in the world. In many ways, the real essence of this tragedy is that the country is tearing itself apart.
Yes, exactly. The country is tearing itself apart, and this is a very good illustration of what is going on inside the Central African Republic. Because until now, it was very difficult to get out of the capital, Bangui. We traveled with an exceptional convoy put together by MISCA, MISCA, and the objective was to try and release the situation, find a solution to the stopped convoys at the border with Cameroon. You don't see it in the piece of reporting, but there are 300 or so trucks that are blocked in Cameroon and that had to be brought back towards the capital in Bangui. But the great difficulty is the trip out and back, as we can see in the piece. And very often we run into a population of people who expect a lot from international aid and who are waiting for their basic needs to be met, whether it's food, whether it's water, whether it's any kind of aid. But the help that they get is insufficient, and this is what we see all through the report. We find people who are fleeing to other places to try and meet their basic needs because they have nothing.
How great, Tatiana, is this threat of the shortage of food?
The World Food Programme explained that before I did this piece of reporting, they were actually close to the end of their stock of cereal in Bangui. Only in Bangui, they have 700 displaced people to deal with, 700,000 people who fled under the violence, and they fled from their hometowns, whether it's in Bangui or other smaller cities outside the capital. So they're fleeing to camps that have been put together by UN agencies, and these people have to be given food, basic food and water. The purpose, the utmost priority and the urgency for the World Food Programme is to be able to get the 38 aid trucks rolling again. They are packed with food aid, but unfortunately they had been stopped and only 10 out of those 38 are back on track. So we can see how difficult it is for Jean-Pierre Leroy, who's in charge of logistics for the program. He said, well, how are we going to get the trucks to their destination? In the meantime, another convoy put together by MISCA went off. The truck drivers don't want to go and get going, so they were thinking of setting up an airlift. Even if it was very expensive, that was not the priority in the beginning, but things need to get moving. So I think to avoid people being slain with machetes, we have to find another solution.
My final question is a big question, and there isn't much time to reply, I'm afraid. The new president, the new interim leader, can she succeed where the previous man failed and impose peace, bring about peace?
This is a real tug of war for the new interim leader. But the question we must ask ourselves is that does she really know what is going on elsewhere in the country? I mean, the situation in Bangui is one thing. There's a real political and military crisis that there is no solution to, or seems to be for the moment, but outside there's the rest of the country. The rest of the country are trusting, and everybody is hoping that she will find a solution. She only has 12 months to try and live up to the challenge.
Tatiana Mosso, thank you very much for your report and thank you for your analysis. If you'd like to see this programme again, you can, of course, via our website, france24.com. This is Reporters on France 24. Stay with us.